All right, welcome back to Sasquatch Off-Road. This is Matt. We got some more of the BFR sighting reports. Um, we're going to start. We did Weber County, and now we're going to Summit. It's the next highest number of cases. So this one starts in 1986, summertime, July. Date is not sure. Uh, Location details. We hiked from Holiday Park area to the upper reaches of the Weber River drainage of the Uinta Mountains. The moaning sounds were heard close to the Round Lake on the Wasatch Cache National Forest. Nearest town was Oakley. Nearest road, 213 to Holiday Park. Observed during the month of July of 1986, a friend and I wanted to try our hand at catching some Arctic grayling in the Weber River drainage of the Uinta Mountains. The hike along the Dry Fork was fairly flat and very pleasant. But after hiking a mile and a half and crossing the stream, Dry Fork, the trail snaked its way up a very steep mountain for over 2 miles. I remember the hike quite well because both of us were loaded down with heavy packs and inflatable rubber rafts. After several hours of hiking and heavy timber, we finally topped the mountain at 9,995 feet and reached Round Lake. This lake is located in a grassy meadow and surrounded by heavy pines. Both of us were very excited to blow up our rafts and start fishing. I remember we only had a few hours to fish before sunset and that we only caught a few trout on spinners, somewhat disappointed with fishing. We gathered up our gear and found a good campsite several hundred feet away from the lake. After setting up our camp and eating, we walked to the lake and found an area that overlooked several heavy timbered canyons. By this time, the sun was completely hidden behind a chain of mountains, and the temperature was dropping fast. To our shock, we both heard several howling moans in a heavy timber below us. I would guess about a half-mile away. The howling was loud and powerful. I'm almost certain we heard 3 to 5 howls, and they sounded nothing like a coyote or wolf. The sounds heard seemed surreal and not human in any way. And as far as I'm concerned, they were not made by any animal that I was familiar with. We just looked at each other trying to figure out what the heck would make such a loud and unforgettable moaning sound. Spooked, we walked back to camp with our flashlights. We both slept in one tent, which was a little unusual because we usually slept in separate tents. Blame it on me, because I was a little shook up. Sometime after midnight, something large moved through our campsite. As I remember it, we thought it was perhaps a deer or more likely an elk. From time to time, I would emerge from the tent flaps, spotlighting for glowing eyes. Whatever it was, it had left me speechless or sleepless and bone-tired. The next morning, a group of horseback riders we met on the trail told us that something had spooked their horses during the night, and they had mentioned something about a Bigfoot. Welcome to the wilderness, I thought. It seemed the further you were from the trailhead, things became easier to believe. That day we caught buckets of Arctic graylings at Sand Lake. They were small. We moved on to Fish Lake that evening to camp. I remember we made a rip-roaring fire and talked about Bigfoot and had a night visit from a chipmunk that scared us. I can't explain it, but the place seemed tainted with a bad vibe and we both felt it. The next day the fishing was good, almost too good at Fish Lake. The area was beautiful with steep rocky ridges, but the atmosphere seemed creepy and wanted us to move on. We caught dozens of good-sized graylings, fishing from our handy rubber rafts in this L-shaped lake. Instead of staying another night at Fish Lake, we hiked to Round Lake and camped the night. The next morning, we hiked back to the trailhead at Holiday Park. A day earlier than planned, the really weird thing, we left a place where the fish were biting, just because we had a bad feeling around Fish Lake. Very odd. Also noted, when we heard the moaning sounds, I wasn't thinking it was Bigfoot, but after listening to the sound recordings on your site, they sounded more like moans recorded in the southern region of the United States. Other witness? Myself and my fishing buddy. Other stories? After doing some research, I read an article on the internet of 8 hikers who spotted a Bigfoot near Fish Lake in 1977. This very interested me. Time and conditions. We heard the howls after sunset. It was getting dark fast. The evening was clear with no hard winds. Environment. We were standing on a mountain ridge overlooking several heavy timbered canyons. We're at an elevation of near 10,000 feet. Follow-up investigation report by BFR investigator Chad Hamblin. They discussed the report with the man who submitted it, found him to be a credible witness. He emphasized several times the loudness of the sound, saying it was unbelievably loud. He said it was hard to tell exactly where it came from, but that it was somewhere below them. It was a sound he'd never heard before and had never heard since. He said it sounded like a big animal. He said the sound lasted about 1 minute or so and was often on 2 or 3 times rather than one steady sound. The witness said he and his friend didn't think about Bigfoot making the sounds or coming through their camp until the next day when they met the riders on horse. He didn't remember if they said they saw Bigfoot or heard one or what, but remember something about one scaring their horses. The witness had spent a great deal of time in the outdoors, hunting and fishing, but said that in all his time in the outdoors, he had never felt scared like on this trip. He said the only time he's left a trip to go home a day early. He said there was something in the air, a forbidding feeling that something didn't want them there. That's that report from Summit County up near Fish Lake in the high Uintas. We'll go on to the next one in Summit County. All right, this next encounter is in 1994, summertime, July. Summit County, location details, Bear Scout Camp. Observed, we were walking down a trail at night. It was a full moon, or pretty big anyhow. There was a stream, and on the other side I saw a hominid. It was walking on 2 feet easily, not a bear, not a gorilla, not a chimp. Not any ape I've ever seen. I'm very, very sure on that. It was either a man or Bigfoot. I don't think it was a man. It doesn't fit very well. I only saw him for a few seconds out of the dark shadows under the trees, but it was so obvious there was just about 50 to 60 feet across the stream, walking along the bare side of the embankment where it sloped up from the stream bottom. I didn't say anything at first. It was just right there, and I assumed the guy in front of me saw it and had taken it into account. We kind of looked to him as the leader since he was a few years older. Anyway, he didn't say anything. I began to suspect he didn't see anything. I think he was humming a song and wasn't paying much attention. I was about to speak up when the guy behind me started to say something too. He had heard a noise up ahead. He pointed to where the creature had gone. It had walked across the slope and down toward the stream in front of us. There it made a noise above that of a small stream. It sounded like a rock clacking against another, like when you step on a rock and it clocks into another one. So he was worried that what that noise was. I was all excited and tried to tell him what I saw. We all got nervous. We yelled, but there was no answer. We were extremely scared. We were working as merit badge counselors at a scout camp. So these are probably like younger kids, 10 to 15. I don't know too much about the scouts, about the stuff that they go through, but they're younger kids. When you see another person up there, you say hi because they're all fun-loving, friendly scouts or scoutmasters. This creature passed very near us, easily in range for a howdy or a hello, but it didn't answer and didn't talk. We backtracked through the meadow we were in at that time into the lodgepole pines at the other end. We sat in the dark till about 1 a.m. We figured the creature went past us about 10 p.m. We imagined all sorts of things sneaking up on us in the dark. We finally each got big sticks, and Danny got his knife, and we went the rest of the way down the trail ready to attack anything that moved. We were extremely scared. Let me describe the creature. It was tall, seemed about 6 to 7 feet. It was all dark color. It walked surly and quickly and quietly. I noticed it brush a sapling with its hand as it walked by. It had a high crown. It was built stoutly in the torso, hips, and thighs. I don't think a person that fat would move so smooth like it did. It also didn't look like a fat person. It seemed proportional, like that how it was supposed to be. The thighs were wide and went up to a curved large buttock. It was just wasn't like a person. It was bigger, but seemed the only word I can think of firm, fit, not fat. Not inhibiting. I'm a very methodical, detail oriented type of person. I've loved nature all my life, and I know what the different animals look like. It was not a bear or an escaped ape. It moved in a distinct way, in a sort of animal. Oh, hold on. It moved in a distinct way. It sort of twisted its hips so the outline of the thigh and buttocks changed. We didn't find any tracks or such. The night we saw it, we were too scared to go looking. The next day we had to do our job, which took all day. It rained also before we had a chance to look for tracks. And we went and we thought that any tracks would have washed away. Also noticed couldn't go back because we had to work and it rained anyway. We were going to go look for tracks. Other witnesses, we had gone fishing at Scow Lake. We had to be back to teach merit badges the next morning at 7 a.m. We had already come 2 miles from Scow Lake. Environment, it was on the trail to Baker Lake, which starts at the east fork of the Bear Scout Camp. It was near a stream. It happened to be at the end of the first grassy meadow after you climb a hill, and pass a pond about a mile from camp. So that was, and I don't know Summit County very well at all, so I can't describe anything else about this area. We'll see what the next one is. We'll see if we can get the next one fit in. So that was a scout camp. These guys sound like they're probably a little older, maybe I'd say 14 to 16, if they're teaching classes and doing stuff like that. All right, this next one is this happened in 2001, so it's a big jump. And I think most of these encounters are fairly far apart in the UNs. The UNs is a big mountain range. It's like one of the only mountain ranges that run east and west in the United States. I think there's a couple, but the Uintas is the one that in Utah that runs east and west. So this was 2001, summertime, June. Date, the 12th to the 13th. The location details, head south on Highway 50 from Evanston, about 2 miles, 0.75 or 0.125 miles south of the ranger station. Turn left on the Christmas Meadows Road. About a half mile, turn right, and then another immediate right and travel about a quarter to a half mile to where we were at. I know this area a little bit, but not very much. I've been there a couple times. So nearest town is Evanston, Wyoming. Nearest road is Highway 50. This Highway 50 is, if I remember correctly, it's also called Mirror Lake Highway. Also noticed there are no campers around the area where we went at. Fresh snow on the ground. Ooh. Yeah, so this is June and it's snow. So the Uintas are pretty high elevation and the weather there is crazy. There are no other campers. No, everyone else was sleeping. That was witnesses. Other stories, just on the BFR website. Time and conditions. Oh, did I pass it? Oh, it's not even. Okay, time and conditions. During the night of June 12th, 13th, while camping with my family and friends, my friend's family, I had a sighting of what I believe was a Bigfoot. The weather had turned cold and it started to snow, so both families decided to sleep in my friend's Suburban. Sometimes between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., I was awakened by the feeling that I was being watched. I looked to my right to find out if I could see anything, but I was unable to, so I tried to go back to sleep. However, I could not shake that feeling that I was being watched, and when I opened my eyes, I looked out into the meadow in front of the Suburban and saw a creature I believed to have been a Bigfoot because it was walking upright, heading north through the meadow. I would guess its height to have been between 6.5 to 7 feet. So this is just a quick sighting, just a glimpse. It was a dark and little overcast, but the full moon offered decent lighting. It had snowed earlier that day and into the evening. Follow-up investigation report by BFRO investigator T.F. Zemisky. I spoke with a witness the evening of March 28th, 2007. A few details to add from our conversation. He saw this biped at a distance of 75 to 100 yards on a partly clouded night with enough moonlight to determine that he was seeing an upright animal. The sighting lasted only a few seconds and took perhaps 4 steps as it walked into the woods and out of sight. The falling snow melted on the ground, so unfortunately no footprints would be apparent. They had to leave the next day, and with young children to tend to, he was unable to investigate further. Yeah, there's a lot of creepy stuff that happens up there in the UNS, um, and that's the UNS is going to be a big area that I investigate this summer. So we'll keep you guys on the line for that. But those are the 3 stories I'm putting out today. That was Summit County. We'll keep going with these until I get all of Utah done. If you guys want to hear another state after Utah's done, throw it in the comments and we'll go from there. We'll see which ones you guys want to watch. And remember, you can't find them from the couch.